What's going on, everyone? And thanks for joining today's podcast. Today, on episode 3 of Rookie and the Vet, we have on our group chat mate, Owen O'Connor. What's going on, O-Dog?
How's it going, fellas? I appreciate you having me on. It's an
Yeah,
honor. Thank you I'm one of the first guests. That's very honorable. I
The
appreciate
first.
the
the
first, not
first,
one of, the first.
absolute first. Now I'm kicking it off then. Very big honor. I appreciate it.
Crafty lefty hitting out of the one hole.
That's how it has to be. He has to be a bunt threat. But we wanted to have you on basically because we think this would be a perfect place to debate not only sports topics, but sports topics within our own KSK group chat. But yes, you are the first member of the KSK on too, so that has to be some sort of award as well. But yeah, Don, what have you been up to this week since you've been retired for however long? What's a retired person do 2 weeks away from the podcast?
Golf, watching a little baseball. Baseball season, Drake. It's in full swing now. Watching a little baseball. And just thinking about how excited I am to have Owen on here.
That's right. Yeah, I'm not very excited about how the Tigers are starting off. Since we're on the baseball topic already, I think they can cool down a little bit, maybe let us try and catch up.
The
Hey, they
Tigers
won.
and
That
Indians,
Padres series, that Padres series was brutal.
Tigers and Guards are going to be it's going to be, I think, a battle all year. I mean, Detroit's starting pitching is solid.
Yeah,
Their
for
starting
sure.
five that they run out there is solid. It's just a matter of who's going to hit on both teams. That's the key for both teams. I mean, Detroit's
Right.
just they've been riding. Spencer Torkelson is one of the most unbelievable stories this year. I mean, he was going to get sent down. They talked about trading him, cutting him. Colt Keith was going to play first base, and the guy just hit his fifth homer already. I
That's
mean, it's
ridiculous. Yeah.
just mashing.
It was time for him to figure it out too. It's kind of crazy their pitching staff is that good too, and Casey Mize just didn't end up being like what I thought he would be either.
No, but he,
He's got
you
to
know,
be a huge part.
he's getting beat today. But he threw two great outings, and Jackson Job's 22 years old, so Flaherty coming back is big for them too. But I think it's going to be those two teams all the way. Well, I actually think throw Kansas City in there too, because I think
Right,
that's the three teams that are going to be competing for that division.
Yeah, it's
right.
just a matter of time for them. They'll go on some good runs where they're going to have it figured out, and then all of a sudden be back in the race for the top of it. The Royals, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, Cole Reagan's. I think he's got about 12 or 13 strikeouts against the Indians today. He's just he's filthy from a left-handed
He
position.
is.
The
Unbelievable.
torpedo conversations kind of died down in the last couple weeks since we last spoke too.
Didn't they outlaw him?
Did they?
I,
I'm not
I,
sure if I saw it officially, but
I don't know. I can't remember.
Uh oh, Don's spreading fake news.
I'm going to start that out there that let me check that real
Yeah,
quick.
let's run that through the fucking the internet machine. Make sure we're not lying to everybody. But no, that
You go
that
ahead and get tell everybody what Owen's all about.
yeah. So all right, let's get it started here. So Owen also not only part of the group chat, but he does a little writing here on the side from his full time gig. And we wanted to have you on to talk draft, talk NFL in general, get a little
of course.
idea of your take on the NIL and the college space, and then obviously debate some goofy stuff at the end here. But can you just let us know what you've been doing, the last couple of years? I know you started out as a beat writer in college, and now you're in the NFL, but just start off kind of from the beginning for us.
Yeah, of course. So, when I initially started up writing, I was funny enough looking for a main job. And I found out that on the Irish Tribune, which is a startup social media and news company for Notre Dame athletics, not just football, we started off in 2022, or I did starting off with them, and I just wrote through the off season, funny enough, from January to August. And then once August picked up, I started writing or that was 2023, actually, sorry. And then once football season picked up in August, this website called waitingfornextyear.com, who covers all Cleveland athletics, Cavs, Indians, or Guardians, and Browns now. Don't cancel me for that.
Whoa, slip.
Don't
Yep, that's
cancel
a
me for
slip.
that.
I was gonna say
But
I need to mark that. Do I need to edit that out? Hold
I'm
for edit.
sorry. Anyone from Cleveland watching would definitely understand. It slips. I think that's in every sentence they say that Indians mean Guardians. But they cover all three major sports teams in Cleveland. I was specifically covering the Browns. So I wrote a good amount of articles for them. And then about halfway through the season, The Browns Wire had a position open up where someone would cover defense and just kind of emergency news stories that happen throughout the week, whether it's someone missing practice, anything that might pop up, your normal news stories. And the Browns Wire is who I write for now, and they're a part of USA Today's extension of the NFL and just kind of their coverage. So along with the Browns Wire, there's also the Bills Wire, the Bengals Wire, Cowboys, etc. So all 32 NFL teams have their own page, luckily, and their own writers. But luckily I'm writing about the Browns, which I'm very passionate about, always have been, especially since I moved up here to Cleveland. It's only gotten even bigger, I would say. Um, and that's kind of what I'm doing now. And you can check out all the articles on thebrownswire.com. That's not a paid ad. But for the most part, that's what I really do now, weekly on top of my other job. And it's great. Right now, we're doing all sorts of draft coverage, which is great, covering all the visits, all the workouts, all the meetings that Stefanski, Barry, and Haslam are attending. Just, gearing up for the draft.
Do you get to
So
go to the do you get to go to those events like who's visiting, stuff like that? I mean, what's your access to the players and team?
So I don't have much access personally. Our head writer and editor, he was at a number of pro days. He went to Ohio State's pro day, and I forget he went to a couple others as well. But the main one he went to was Ohio State's to try and get some words in with the college kids. So I think we have a little bit of access there in terms of locker room or speaking of player access. We don't report much on that. It's really just kind of what news we see from the main Browns page and what they
Mhm.
post and what the main news is from them. But it's really just the factual stuff, not a lot of the, headline grab rumors, just kind of, more what's actually happening with the team.
so it's more like yeah, so it's like almost more beady in a way.
It
I
is.
so my question to you too is like, how did you kind of find this gig? Like, did he reach out to you on Twitter, or did you guys have a connection beforehand?
We didn't have any connection. I just followed him because he was a good Browns guy. And when I saw he tweeted and said that they had an opening, I just reached out and kind of gave a quick resume. It was Twitter, so I didn't give him the full
Right,
thing. I
right.
just said, "Hey, man, I wrote for the Notre Dame for about 6, 7 months. Then I've been writing for waiting for next year for about 2 months, and looking to kind of just keep going up the ladder in terms of writing." And he right away he said, "Yeah, man, sounds good," and I just joined right away. And then I covered defensive plays, which was really just the major plays, of course, like somebody's first sack or 50th career interception, or anytime the defense scores, defense or special teams. So that would be the main thing of what I cover on game day. And then just throughout the week, it's just more, kind of news that we all grab.
Is there any like websites you use to pull stats or anything that you're looking up like during the game or when you're watching the game that or do you do your research beforehand and kind of find those headlines before the game and then watch to see if those kind of like follow through?
There's a couple things you kind of see on just throughout Twitter that you see that like Myles Garrett is gearing up for his 99th sack or coming up on his 100th sack. So there's those things you see, but it's really also a lot of what you just hear on the TV. They say, and that's so and so's first career sack. That's this. So it's a lot of just kind of what's reported, really. And then the main thing I also cover throughout the week during the regular season is I do the PFF grades, which I know aren't so popular among some, but
No, I love them.
you love them.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I,
yeah.
that's
Not a
right. But
fan.
I not, but I do top 10 players, just overall grades on offense and defense. And you have to, of course, play 15 snaps or more because sometimes there will be a special teams guy that
Is
sneaks
that going
in
to
there.
be Brown specific, like best, like top 10 on defense for the Browns?
It is. Yep. Just
Okay.
Browns. Just
Right.
Browns. Yep. Which was revealing last year for sure. It was not good. And then I also do position grades throughout the week on the regular season, which also revealing. It was getting a little tiresome writing the same thing over and over again about the running back room, which was god awful.
I find it very interesting how optimistic you're able to stay too, as being so close to it, and then having to listen to the group chat. Who
Yeah.
the older dudes, or even Zach now is kind of being a curmudgeon. That's
Oh, he
and
is.
that is a dig. That's a direct dig. I hope you're listening.
That's
But he's
right.
taken a lot of curmudgeon takes lately, and I'm like, Owen's really close to it and is still able to keep a positive outlook on it. Because sometimes even I'm like bitching and complaining just because I'm like, you have to as a Browns fan if you're not close to the team. But like, how are you able to kind of just keep that? You and your dad are loyalists, obviously, but how are you able to keep that positive outlook always?
That's the answer right there. I was going to say the main reason is Doc O. Everyone knows Doc O, and he's like Dalton Moss with the Indians. You know, he'll find a double-A guy you just traded for and say, this dude, his sophomore year of college, had an OBP, a 315, you know, and he'll find you that stat. But and that's how my dad is with the Browns. You know, he'll find you this crazy stat, or he'll find a way to hype up any guy. And it
I,
really is, you know, helpful because it helps me, you know, just stay somewhat positive. And then sometimes, you know, I'm like, of course, I'm like, yeah, you know, sure. Yeah, maybe he is. I don't know. But they're in a Browns uniform. So that's the main thing, too, is they're in a Brown. And that was the case a lot with many people that were against Deshaun Watson, which you know, when he was traded that day, I was for
Mhm.
because of his talent. And I understand many just got off the bandwagon completely. But it's just for me personally, whoever's wearing the Browns uniform, I'm rooting for. And that's just who's going to be out there on game day playing. And that's where I'm going to find myself every Sunday. So why
God,
deny
I
it?
get so sick of listening to this.
Well,
As a non-Browns fan, this whole group chat thing is about enough to make me pull my hair out. You know, first of all, not being a Cleveland fan in anything, in fact, kind of despising most Cleveland teams. Um, I got to listen. You know, I got to listen to, like you said, D Moss will pump out the fact that they traded for this 97th round pick, and the guy hit 310 when he was a sophomore in high school, and he really thinks this guy's going to be the next Carlos Baerga. And I almost and then I'm thinking, okay, get through baseball season, and by then it's football season, and Doc O's like, I'm pretty sure this seventh round pick that they traded for is going to be he could be the next, you know, Lawrence Taylor. This guy's got unbelievable skills, and he'll and Doc O will find. I don't know how you guys do it. You guys find obscure people that'll be like, oh, on Twitter they said this guy, you know, to back up whatever crazy comment you guys are making. It's unreal. And now Owen's one of those dudes that's making the crazy comments that people are finding to back up their arguments. So I can't get. I'm gonna have to start following the Lions daily or whatever it's called, the
The Lions Wire. That's it for you.
Lions Wire.
So it's kind of like Locked On Browns and like Locked On Lions and like things like that. It's kind of the same sort of idea because that's what like the podcasts, there's like the podcast section to a lot of these teams. It's like Locked On Eagles, Locked On Browns. It's kind of like the same deal, except it's more so for blogging because that isn't that kind of what it
Right.
is. You're like you're blogging,
Basically, yeah,
right?
just the blogging for USA Today, yeah. And then you can, and there's like comments and stuff on the website too. But mainly on Twitter, it's just kind of send links to the article and post. But we don't really do much more than that on the social media, and we really only do Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Drake, I do. Now I know how Owen and his dad feel on that group chat during college football when they got to listen to all the
Oh
Ohio
my
State.
God, dude.
You know,
Okay, that's a
At
good.
least you guys are good.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing though, Owen. You have to watch us complain when we're like up 28 and there was
Yeah.
like one possession where like a right guard accidentally let somebody through and got some pressure and then the quarterback had to like throw it away or like underthrew his guy. Then everybody all of a sudden's terrible and like
Right.
this team's trash. They're never going to compete with Alabama. Like, yeah, they're going to get killed by Georgia at the end of the year. Like you hear it the entire time and then
And there's 10
once
minutes left in the second quarter.
right. And it's like,
yeah,
okay, and we're up three scores. And it's just
Right.
like it's not good enough. And it's like as a fan of Notre Dame, when you're hearing that, you're like, yeah, these people are insane. You have
Yeah.
Blake and Mike arguing back and forth because Blake's getting pissed about shit. Mike thinks he shouldn't be mad about it. And then they're both being like mad about dumb shit the whole time.
All the whole day. And yeah, and even when the chat, you know, will go completely silent, even when Ohio State ends up winning 52-7. And there's no good game this, good game that. It's just radio silence.
Yep.
It's just I love the no positivity. It's all
Or it's the Zach pulls everything back into perspective. It was like, yep, good game. Kind of
yeah,
pulled it
right.
together there. Rough start, but we made it happen.
Yeah.
And no likes,
Zach loves the heat check.
nobody looks at it and is like, yeah, he's right, but we just kind of move on to the next.
Right.
But that's
Zach's in his 30s now, though, so he's kind of riding the fence between is he a young guy like you guys that's got that youthful exuberance, or is he curmudgeony like the old guys on there? So he's kind of like in the riding the
right
fence,
because
you know, like,
he has two kids. He has
yeah,
shit he's got to deal with.
he can see the tunnel. He can see the tunnel that's the train that's coming that's going to just knock him out into total curmudgeonville. He can see it.
His first step was when the Browns he's now completely out almost, and he's just now shut down, and he's refusing to come back, and that's the most curmudgeonly thing of all. He's just He's stubborn. He's not
He'll
gonna.
be back. He'll be back. If they start winning games and they look like a real football team and they're hitting people on defense, as long as the defense is like fucking people up, I think he'll be back. But that
I,
is to be seen in the future. I don't know. That's what brings us to our next point. Owen, let's move into a little bit of draft talk here since we're on the topic of Browns.
yeah.
We're gonna touch on the Browns and Lions, but let's start off the Browns here. A lot of rumors swirling. It was Shadur. It was it's Travis now. Who do you think they're targeting there at the 2 spot?
So the latest rumor does seem to be Travis for sure. Then that's what many people are mocking, and that's what I've kind of grown to believe as well as that rumors came to float. I think, just looking at the fact if you don't want to pick a quarterback because there was rumors early on that they loved Cam Ward and people got excited about that, but I never really did because who else was Tennessee going to take? I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't get it. I thought there was no chance really at first he was going to fall to us. And there was rumors of them taking Abdul Carter. That never made any sense to me unless they were truly just going to try and tank for next year. But, with a guy like Cam Ward, who might not be the most generational prospect, he's still a really, really good quarterback. And he still could be very, very good if they, give him a good system and don't just throw him to the dogs. But for the Browns, I think if you don't want Shadur or don't think he's, worth the value of that number 2 pick, you probably should go Travis Hunter just based on his possibility, the playmaking wise. The only worry I ever had was if the Browns were good enough to handle that talent, not his personality or anything like that, but just kind of handle how he can play and that play
Yep.
style. It's still a question, really. But, I think it's worth the risk because if that's your biggest worry, you should be okay. But, I think truly that would be my pick, him or Shadur Sanders for sure. But at the moment, it sounds like probably Travis Hunter is the way they're leaning, just based on, the help that he can probably bring on offense as a wide receiver, and possibly, the quarterback help if anyone's ever to go down,
Mm-hmm.
which usually at least 1 or 2 Brown cornerbacks go down a year. So he would be nice to have if that ever came to the situation, or if they just want to use him there in general.
So
All right,
I
let me
okay, go
play
ahead, Don.
devil's advocate here. All right, I hear you, but first of all, how many wide receivers, taking a wide receiver in the number 2 spot is a risky prop. I mean, they don't
It
usually
is
go
for
that high,
sure.
and you're sitting there with an edge guy. Why not be great? Why not be the best in the league at one position and start your rebuild there?
Because we've seen that story before, and teams just haven't really won that way. The Chargers, Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa were supposed to take the league by storm. They didn't really do anything. It's just kind of a story. We've seen J.J. Watt, Davian Clowney are supposed to be this all world. They didn't. They kind of stayed the same. I just think drafting Abdul Carter at number 2, he's going to be a player that's always going to be second best in the room. He, has those slight injury concerns, which I'm not real crazy about. I think if you're just not going to take Travis Hunter, who's clearly the most talented player in the draft, if you can't get the quarterback, you should probably take a risk on a quarterback then and just take Shadur personally. But that's just how I feel about Abdul.
And so my
I just think the quarterbacks in this draft are so overvalued.
Oh,
I
for
mean,
sure. And they usually are it's all a need, right? It's all position need for sure. And it's just are you willing to take that risk, especially because he's a Sanders, and if he is good, that's going to be so much attention for your team, so many tickets for your team. So I think it's also, and that was my scare at first was if the Browns pass on him and he goes to the Giants and he's awesome, well, now that's all people are going to talk about is how the Browns were dumb because they passed on Deion's kid, who was obviously going
right.
to be good, when right now he's getting criticized. So that was my fear at first. But I think if you take Travis Hunter instead, people, not that I really care, but I think it would be, more understandable personally.
Here's how I kind of look at the Travis Hunter situation is the Browns, like you said, aren't great at handling players with a unique skill set like he has. Like they just don't do a good job of producing guys on offense for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, Nick
right.
Chubb, it was was somebody who was kind of the outlier there, and so is Josh Gordon. But other than that, we haven't had a guy like that.
Right.
And I think Travis Hunter, say, he is really good. If he get and say he plays both ways, if he gets hurt, you're going to have to replace a guy on offense and on defense at a level that is pretty much impossible. If he's elite on offense and defense and you take him and he gets hurt, you're going to have 2 guys out that you're going to have to replace instead of 1. And then good. And like I think Don's point, taking a wide receiver at 2 is kind of unprecedented, but Julio was taken at 3 before. The league is a passing league now. We see rookies kind of break out earlier at the wide receiver position than any other position. So I don't hate it, but I would honestly go QB and take a shot at QB here. And if that means moving back, a spot or whatever, or the Giants, because like you said, I think you go QB until you don't, until you don't need one. You take
Right.
that shot early on, and that's kind of like your dad's take on it too. Is just like keep taking your shots until you get it right.
Right, because truly aren't successful until you have one. I mean, that's been proven time and time again. So, I mean, but that also brings up with Travis Hunter, if they do take him, the draft's not over for the Browns because they're gonna definitely take someone probably at 33 quarterback wise, or maybe try and move back up, which I don't think I would move back up personally because, like Don said, a lot of guys are overvalued in this draft, and I wouldn't take anyone that's not Shedeur or Cam Ward in the first. But I think, unfortunately, there's probably going to be 3 taken on Thursday, and who
Mm-hmm.
knows? The Browns are going to be one of those teams that might trade back up to do it.
Who three do you think will go if there were?
I think Dart is probably the third. People seem to be falling in love with him for sure, especially if he can. I think, and I can see it if if he's drafted in the right situation and could sit. I would understand it. I just think if you're planning on him being your day one starter for this year, that's that's a big risk, especially in the first round. I just don't know if that would work.
I'll be honest with you, and I think the same thing about Cam Ward. I think that if you're thinking he's your day one quarterback, that's a really risky prop that you're
Yeah,
making.
no, I agree. Yeah, I
I
don't
mean,
know if he would. I'm not saying he's going to be like a day one awesome starter like Jaden Daniels, but um, I just think Tennessee's in a situation where I don't know what else they can do.
yeah. I mean, ideally though, he's not the skill set. I don't think he's at the level that ideally you would put him in and what you got around him, and he'll be successful. I think that, and that's, to be honest with you, if I'm a Cleveland fan, that's one of my concerns about Hunter too, is who's going to throw him the football, and is the offense going to be diversified enough for him to be satisfied?
Yeah, no, I agree, and that was part of my concern about can they handle it kind of thing, right? Is the offense going to be diverse enough for him? Are they going to do something too crazy where they play him too much and he gets hurt? It's a big risk with him for sure. It's kind of definitely I think a high risk, high reward, I would say, because he's so talented. But you know, if it's not the right situation for him, or like you said, Joe Flacco comes out there and I mean, as he's obviously not great or what he used to be, but he still has a good arm. But if his arm's destroyed, or his arm finally ages out next season, and you're in trouble, But it's a question for sure. So that's where a lot of people, would just take Shedeur and take that risk
Mm-hmm.
and say, we took the risk of Dion's kid being good, and we knew that if we struck gold with it, it'd be awesome. But
And that's kind of
Shadir's
where
made, Shadir's made for New York though. You just
he
know
is.
you
He
right.
know he's
is.
going to go to New York. You know he's going to have the jewelry on. He's going to have, you can see it. I
Oh, for
mean,
sure. Yeah, I think he's going number 3 for sure. Even though they signed Russ and Jameis, which I don't know why they re-signed Tommy DeVito. Funny enough, so they re-signed 3 quarterbacks, which if Shedeur gets picked, obviously he's going to get cut. But
Yeah, I was gonna say.
that would be good for Shedeur because he wouldn't have to. Again, he could learn. You could have Russ and Jameis do whatever they do this year and just see who has the hot hand there. Probably going to be Russ. And then just let Shedeur learn. So that would be an awesome situation for him for sure. And like you said, he would love the New York attention. He's just built for it.
yep.
So I have the list up here. So say we do go Travis Hunter at let me turn my stuff up here too. Say we do go Travis Hunter at the 2 spot. That leaves us with so you say Jackson Dart goes, somewhere mid first round or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
Do you think then that leaves us kind of with like Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord, Will Howard, Tyler Shaw or whatever, however you say his name? Who are those guys you think the Browns are going to target in the mid rounds if they're not going to go Shadir earlier?
So before I try and say anything good about any of these guys, let me first say that I think they're all going to be in a Deshaun Kaiser situation
Yeah.
where it's complete. He's going to get picked, and if he's good, cool. But he's more than likely not going to be. And if that's the case, we'll just get a good guy next year and have Travis Hunter or Abdul and Miles and whatever for next year. But if I So I truly think Milroe's probably the guy they're going to target, and the main reason is because of the Tommy Rees connection. When Milroe had that really good season at Alabama in 2023, where I forget what his numbers were specifically, but it was like 23 touchdowns, 8 picks, looked a lot better. It was more of a hyped up prospect going into 2024 before he had a struggling season. Um, Tommy Rees was his offensive coordinator in 23, so I think that would probably be a good connection and someone that if they like each other, they would probably target. I think another guy would probably be then again, this is where you get kind of Deshaun Kaisery is, the Will Howard, Kyle McCord, those kind of guys that, probably aren't going to start right away, but if they have to, they're going to be in a situation where they're probably not in there to do much except, you know, see what they have or just kind of lose games. But
What have you
I would probably think that's the main targets.
what have you heard about Tyler Shaw though? I mean, everything I was reading this last week is that he might be one of the fastest risers from the quarterbacks coming out of maybe late day two into maybe early day two, because he had an incredible workout, I guess, in the pro day.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did have
He's
an awesome
fast.
workout,
He's
and he's
fast.
also he's fast. And the other thing is, I think he's the oldest guy in the class. So a lot of guys like that in terms of pro ready style, won't have to sit and learn, and could be a guy that if they have to go to, would get picked. So that also could be another Cleveland Browns target because of his age, and also wouldn't be, a lot of people would say it's Brandon Weeden again, but he's obviously not a guy you're picking in the first round.
Right.
So it
And I
would
mean,
be
and that 6'5" frame too is like what everybody's kind of latching on to. He's big. He's got great measurables. And
right,
like you said, the age is going to be a factor for those teams who might be kind of shitty, who might need a quarterback to come in and play, maybe like the Saints. It's
right.
kind of what I was thinking, a situation like that. And I can even see the Saints even picking either if Shadur drops, or even I can see him picking Jackson Dart there too, because I've seen a lot of stuff where like Carr might have to have season ending shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming they might have to try to make some moves there and either go QB or shake something up down there because they're going to be terrible. They have Spencer
Yeah.
Rattler, which I don't think they're going to roll him out in the beginning of the season.
No, even though people were saying rookie quarterback for them, I just think that'd be not a good move. I think they're like dead last in salary cap or in dead cap as well because of Carr's contract and everything that's going on. So this season, no matter who you get, it's not going to be an awesome roster, especially if you get a quarterback. Most of the money is not going to be for supporting cast. It's going to be for the guy who's either in the IR tent or backing him up, like in Derek Carr. So it's tough for me to see how that would be an awesome situation, but they're predicted to go there. Like a lot of people have said Jackson Dart there as of late, or Shadur, if he does fall that
Right.
far, it might be his deadline now is 9 because
Mm-hmm.
of that need. They just need it. So
Need it.
they do.
Boy, I tell you
Especially if the
though,
car's out.
if you're moving Jackson Dart into the top 10, talk about a massive reach.
I agree. I 100% agree.
I mean,
It's really
everybody said
neat.
that about
Really
Penix last
neat.
year, Penix and Nix too, and they both actually had pretty decent years though. Like
Yeah, but Penix
Nix
and
was a
Nick,
reach.
I'll be honest. I mean, I like Penix and Nick's pedigree coming out of college a lot better than I like Jackson Dart's.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't disagree, but he did go to Ole Miss. He did play for like Lane Kiffin. He played in a weird offense, which the offenses are kind of being more catered to that NFL or that college style quarterback. So like he's gonna have obviously learn the offenses in the NFL just like every other quarterback. But his play and his arm and what he did and what he was asked to do and those tough throws that he's asked to make, like he can do all of that stuff. I just think like was it proven on the field? It gives me very Dak Prescott vibes, though. I'm not gonna lie, because like they were pretty good. They were top 10 in the country. Kind of had flirted with the playoffs. And his name was always kind of mentioned as one of the best quarterbacks in the country. But I never felt like he showed that to me. He didn't stand out when I was watching games. Does that make sense? Like he didn't
Yeah,
he
I
didn't
agree.
pop. He didn't pop for me.
I think well, right now, before we got on here, I was looking at the consensus mocks right now, and I see that the Will Johnson going to the Saints at 9 is kind of the consensus pick. Which, if I'm the Saints, I'm happy. I'd take that right there. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Yeah,
he's lockdown corner. Um,
that's
I
what I
just
would do for
I
sure.
I just think that I get the pedigree and playing for Kiffin and all that kind of stuff, but man, oh man, I just think that that's a guy that before the season started, you would have probably mocked in the second round,
Yeah.
and he had a good year, but I'm not sure. the season he had brings him into the top 10. It's just kind of that's a huge reach if they do it at 9. Now, the Saints trading down would not surprise me.
Mm-hmm. That would
I can
make
see that too.
that'd
Yeah.
make more sense, especially like Owen said with their cap issues. They're gonna have to at least, either pick up more rookies or pick up some people who have some relief. So more picks would make sense to move back, get a little more picks in those later rounds or something. And something that's interesting since you mentioned Loveland, and then you also mentioned Will Johnson. It's kind of crazy if you look at mock drafts, how many dudes are getting ready to get drafted into the NFL from Michigan in the first round. You got Loveland, you got Johnson, like you said. You
Mason
also
Graham's
have,
another one.
yeah, you have Mason Graham. You also have their other
Defensive
D
tackle.
tackle. I can't
Yeah.
think of his name right now. I'm trying to find it real quick. Um, where's he? Kenneth Grant, I think
Yeah.
is his name. Kenneth Grant. He's 6'4", 331. And the Ohio State Buckeyes decided to run right at those guys. Like that's what I was when I was looking at the draft and I saw all these Michigan dudes. I was like, this is exactly why we lost that game. Like they were super talented. They were a quarterback away. Like
Right.
I couldn't believe how talented they are. And Ohio State, they have some dudes in here too. I just who are some guys from Notre Dame that you think will kind of break out or be guys in the NFL that were good coming into this draft?
For Ohio State?
I'm saying for Notre Dame. Like who's
Oh,
some
okay.
Notre Dame prospects, coming into this draft? But, who do you think is going to be, like Kyron Williams type?
So luckily, I would say Jeremiah Love, I funny enough thought was going to this draft, but I didn't realize till a couple months ago he was actually willing to stay back and he's all good. So I think the biggest prospect for them though is probably Xavier Watts.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to be, I think, very good. He's an interception magnet. He just always finds, when there's a loose ball, even a little bit overthrown or in tough coverage in the end zone, he just always finds himself there. And I think he's probably going to end up being one of the best players for Notre Dame out of this draft. The other one I think of who has unfortunately turned into a sleeper is Benjamin Morrison, their cornerback,
Mm.
who before he got injured this year, I believe he had a hip injury. I don't recall what it was exactly, but he only played about 3 games for Notre Dame this year, which he looked very good in, just like he did last season. And he was projected to be, a top 20, top 25 pick. And he still was for a while, but then after I think the pre-draft and workouts and things like that, he's been sliding a lot. But if he can return to full health, I don't see why he can't return to being an awesome lockdown corner. And he was also one player who probably wouldn't have made a difference. But when that Jeremiah Love deep ball against Ohio State, on third down, late in the fourth quarter, you
Jeremiah
know,
Smith, sorry.
Jeremiah Smith, I'm
All
sorry.
right. Nope, you're good.
Jeremiah Smith, that's just one play that, even though he might not have made the play, you just wish that he would have been there. Like Jeremiah Smith was probably going to still awesome, but it would have been at least a little bit of better hope where you're like, dang, of
And
course,
it's
like, that's how it ends where we needed him the most.
it's kind of cool too. You saying he's sliding, but he's still. I mean, he's the 34th ranked overall prospect in the class, at least on NFL.com or
Yeah.
CBS Sports. So
Yeah.
I mean, he's fallen, but like still pretty highly rated. I mean, Will Johnson's fallen from a top 10 consensus pick down to 23. So they've kind of had similar slides, I'm sure, in terms of like
Right.
how many positions they've slid. Don, this is kind of a question for you because I haven't been keeping up on the draft as much as I do in recent years. Who's a guy or position that the Lions are looking? I'm assuming they'll just draft best player available, but like who's a guy that you either like or a guy that you're hearing that they like?
I don't think they actually go best player available. I think they're going to go with either an edge rusher, or they would love to land an offensive lineman, um, especially Gray Zabel, the North Dakota State guard. If he's there, I think they take him just because he offers so much flexibility, and they're actually one of their weak spots is going to be. Um, Getting some people to fill in on the offensive line. The offensive line is still one of the best in the NFL, but it's aging. Taylor
Mm-hmm.
Decker is in about his 11th season out of Ohio State to tackle, and then you got Graham Glasgow out of Michigan that's still starting. So you got a little bit of age on that offensive line. Grable or Zabel would be a great fit there, just because he can play all three positions. But I got a feeling that if everything stays like it's predicted, they're going to grab a defensive end or an edge rusher. I would say when you get down to that point, you're probably looking. I'm not even going to try this kid's name. The kid out of Boston College, Donovan
Uh,
Azaruko or something like that. And
Ezaruku or something like that.
yeah, they've been linked to JT Tumaloso, whatever, from Ohio State too.
Tumalualau.
Yeah, so they could be drafted just the hardest name on the draft board. Whoever has
That's
the
super funny. I haven't realized too, like these new names that are coming from all over the world playing football now. Nobody had to worry about in the 70s like that, except for
right.
like Tim Biakapatuka when he put like 300 on us. But like the names that put you guys in a blender now, like we've had Emeka Ibuka too. Like the people that I've heard, like some of the old dudes that try to say these names actually crack me up.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea, JT. But
Yeah, everyone's like JTT. JTT is what everyone called him
right.
instead, right? Like, yeah,
Right,
that's
make it easy.
JTT, baby. Love that guy,
Yeah.
JTT.
The thing
What's his
with
real name?
the funny thing with the
Uh,
Lions though is that they don't have in free agency they did not address the defensive end position. They re-signed Marcus Davenport to a 1-year deal, 4.5 million, which is a contract friendly deal. But he hasn't played a full season in about 5 years. I mean, he's
I
had
mean,
so
if he
many.
does though, he's nasty. He should be. After he got paid, he kind of got lazy.
But I don't think that a team that's on the cusp can go into a season thinking that, you know, maybe, maybe this guy will stay healthy. I think they need to get somebody that they can plug and play in the first year. And there's not going to be a lot of pressure on the guy. He's simply going to be in there probably on passing downs. And he's opposite Hutchinson. So,
So, is there
but
anybody the Lions lost this offseason that you think they need to replace for a position that they're kind of down on this year?
well, they lost Carlton Davis, but they replaced him right away with the Reed kid off the Jets. So I mean that
Mm-hmm.
was kind of tit for tat, in all honesty. And outside of that, I think they did a pretty good job. They didn't lose. I don't think outside of Davis, they didn't really lose anybody that I would say was super impactful. They lost the one safety. Can't remember his name either. A long name, but their safety position's pretty solid. So I just think that they obviously need an edge. They need some backup at the offensive line, and they could use a wide receiver. I mean, they've been linked to a couple wide receivers later in the draft, maybe day two wide receivers. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown and Williams. Williams is in the last year of his contract, and so it'll be interesting to see if he gets re-signed.
They
Jameis.
always at least always have really good years on their last college, like because they know they need to get paid. So he's probably going to be available every game, and he's going to be trying his dick off. So you're
Well,
probably hoping for that 1,000 yard, 10 touchdown season like T
he's a
Higgins
guy
type.
that kind of needs it, right? Because
Yep.
throughout his contract, he doesn't have a lot of, he had a good year last year, but up until then, he'd been suspended a couple times. He's a guy that really needs
Got in
to,
trouble for gambling. Like,
yeah, he needs to prove out this year a little bit. So they could use a third. They signed Tim Patrick again, which is great, great signing last year.
they also got Rocky Sin, I think, too.
Yeah, so I think they're pretty much on offense running it back. Defensively, they signed Barnes. He was hurt. Hell, if they get all their guys that were hurt back, that'd be one big plus right there. So, but I think that definitely edge, and I think offensive line, and maybe a day two or late day three wide receiver.
Yeah, it's a great draft need actually both of those guys because at the Athletic on the Beast 2025 NFL Draft Guide they just came out with they have 7 wide receivers in the top 60 and then 10 edge rushers in the top 52. So
And
I
don't you
mean
think
it's
that's
an absolutely stacked edge class.
don't you think that also is kind of almost an homage to the evolution of the game in a way? It's like the passing has absolutely taken front and center. Like you're passing way more than you're running, so you obviously need to get to the QB and you need to get open, and that's where it's like
Sure.
that's why going back to the Browns, it's like that's kind of where you start and build your stuff. But I think the Browns have so many issues outside of just the quarterback that we need to address. But the quarterback is always the main one. Who are some guys for the Browns that you think are getting taken at that second pick if it's not going to be QB, and then some other guys that you'd like to target or positions that you think we need to target in this draft?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, if you took Travis Hunter, number 2 overall, the first question I think everyone will be thinking about, like, is what we already talked about, is who the quarterback is that you're going to take because they're going to take somebody between Jackson Dart, Will Howard, Shadur, Riley Leonard, Jalen Milroe. They're linked to about 6 or 7 different guys. It could be any of those guys. I think it's all completely just on who's going to be available at what time, unless they love a guy that they want to trade up for. Otherwise, I guess they could probably use a safety as well. I think that someone you could definitely look at is Malachi Moore from Alabama. He's one that kind of slipped a little bit that I thought could be a good third round pick for the Browns, who posted a 84.9, 2024 PFF grade. Don, I know you like that. But which was his best season by far against elite SEC competition. So I think him proving that would be awesome as a third round, value if they were able to get him. And he could, with the loss of Thornhill, get very meaningful reps, for the Browns.
And we've seen in the past too, like Ronnie Hillman.
Hillman in the game at tailback for the first time gets it. Sweep left. Good hole.
Getting some meaningful snaps, and this will be a year for him to prove if he's an NFL player or not too. So we'll have guys like that who are kind of gonna have to step up and be something. Do you think they're going to be targeting any other wide receivers outside of Trav Hunter? Because like Travis is not even like on the wide receiver rankings. He's not even on the rankings on CBS. Do you think they would target somebody like, Jack Beck there at that second round pick? Do you think it's a foregone conclusion that they're going to take a quarterback at the second, that 30, what is it, 34 or 33?
Yeah, I would like to think so. I mean, because if you don't, then it just shows that they're probably going to do a rotation system between Joe Flacco, whoever they get with their third pick, and just whatever, and Kenny Pickett, of course, who claims he's there to start for the Browns, and I'm sure has been told he's going to get the opportunity because there's no question the job's wide open at the moment. So
I would just love if they took like Travion Henderson or like Quinshon Judkins with the second pick, just to get a running back in the room. You can see what a change of pace running back can do. You know what I mean? Like, look what the Lions have with their 1-2 punch. Like,
right.
If you just have a change of pace back that comes in there and just does something, like it just does something for your offense, and especially if they're going to have a younger QB in there, or just like these check down QBs like Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco, why not have a guy in there that can fill that role that Nick Chubb can no longer fill?
Right.
I like that running back move and kind of stacking up on offense. I'm also not opposed to going like interior D line. I also think that this class is kind of weak in the interior D line. So, I mean, that's kind of where I would kind of want to go. I don't know. I mean, outside of like the 2 Michigan guys, I don't really know much about the other people. I know that Derek Harmon from Oregon's getting a lot of juice.
Yeah.
The Darius Alexander from Toledo's risen a lot. He's a senior. He's 6'4", 310. That's like the type of shit I want to see for the Browns. And then maybe just add some nastiness to our defense. But other than that, I don't have a lot of faith in our organization until we start proving some things on the field. I feel like in the past we drafted well and we've picked up those late round guys, but we haven't hit on our wide receivers really. Like, I mean, Cedric
Right.
Tillman and Jabari Thrash, like what are they? You had guys
Tillman's
there
shown
you could have
flashes,
taken.
but that's all it's been.
Right. And it's like, I don't have a lot of trust in the guys we have on offense right now, and then letting guys go last year, like some of our leaders in Amari Cooper, like they just like traded him away last year because he was fed up. Last thing here with the Browns until we move on to some college stuff here. What is the deal with Watson?
In terms of him still being on the team?
Well, he's on the team, and like he made a video saying like everyone's counting him out, and are they gonna give him a shot to play because he's gonna be out, right? He's out with another Achilles thing, right?
Yeah, so he'll physically be unable to perform, especially because he retore it. So he was already going to be out.
Right.
He tore it during the season until like week 8 at best.
Mm-hmm.
And now he retore it 2 months later. So he's going to be out until week 12, 11, whatever it might be. By then, a team knows their fate and they got their system and things are either rolling or not rolling. And they're not going to bring him back for any reason, especially I think Jimmy Haslam coming out publicly and saying that he, it was a huge swing and miss. You're not going to bring that. He's not. No, he's never playing another down. The only reason he's still on the team at the moment is because if we cut him, we'd have our dead cap would get absolutely destroyed, and our salary cap would too, and it just would cost.
And that's the same reason why we can't trade him either.
Right, we just wouldn't be able to spread it out. But at this moment, he's injured. and we can still kind of just put him to the side and tell him he'll probably stay home for games. He's not going to be around during the season as much as he might try.
So then what was the implications with the thing that came out with the insurance for the Browns on his injury? So that's going to
Right.
is that going to make more cap available for us?
It will. So I think we get about 12.5 million this year, and I forget what the number is next year. I think it might be around 30 or so next year. I forget the exact numbers, but total it's about $60 million we'll get in relief cap because he's not able to play, and therefore we won't have to pay him.
Right,
So
because he's not going to
and
be able to fulfill his contract, basically,
right,
his
right,
obligations.
right. And though people, it's overlooked, but that was one somewhat smart things the Browns did during this was when they quickly realized he might not be the same player. They kind of went behind closed doors and said, let's sign an insurance policy real quick, just in case we can get some kind of out. And he got hurt. And so
Mhm.
now they're saving money, luckily. But unfortunately, because he got
So
hurt.
that's where like the contract a lot of times is getting discussed. Like, oh, it is a bad contract, and
Horrible. It's horrible.
it's not what you want your organization to do. But I
No.
will say, if a
There's no
player
but. There's no but.
if a
No but.
player knows they can get a guaranteed contract from somewhere and they're going to get it from the Browns, the likelihood of the Browns being able to sign another person who wants their bag is higher than others, in my opinion. It
Yeah.
seems like somebody would want to come here and get their bag and do the same thing, and then hopefully we actually get somebody who can play ball.
And yeah, and I think that was part of the Deshaun contract too, was he wasn't going to come here if he didn't get paid that kind of money because people don't want to come to Cleveland usually. So unfortunately,
He was going to go to Atlanta, just like everything was reported the entire time. The Falcons
right,
were going to sign him, and then the
right,
last second, Brown swooped in and he signed because it was all guaranteed.
right.
Question for you, Browns fans. I got one simple question. Are the Browns in a rebuild, or is this one of those things where you're going to try to rebuild the team while you're still trying to be competitive?
So it's hard to say rebuild for me at the moment because you signed Miles that extension. Not this season because you signed Miles to an extension and Joel Bitonio came back. So it'd be hard for me to, tell them if I was the GM or Kevin Stefanski, whoever it might be, that you're going to not try and win this season, even though it might end up being that way just due to, lack of quarterback play or whatever it might be. So I think personally they're not trying to, but the thing is, even if they don't succeed at that this season, they'll have Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and then a top probably choice of a quarterback next year.
So
So
if that's the case, Owen, would the Browns at all entertain a trade down for picks?
this season,
Yes.
oh, probably for sure. Yeah, especially because next year's draft is going to be unbelievable. It's a very stacked draft. So having two picks next year, I think you definitely could, especially if you get a good haul back and you don't have to go too far down, like somewhere within the top 12, or top 14, and you can get maybe a first next year. And then you could, you can maybe get like a Mike Green or, someone like that at edge. I don't know. There's going to be some players available, but so I think they're definitely probably entertaining calls for sure.
I'm not convinced they're not. I still think they're taking Shadur until anything else, because they've been super quiet about things. The biggest thing that is leading me to believe it's going to be obviously Travis or Shadur is the meeting with Dion and like them talking about like one of those boys are going to get drafted by the Browns. I think there is some truth to that. But I do think the Browns and the opportunity for them, I think, is bigger than just what's on the field. I think the marketing turnaround that they're going to need from having somebody like Deshaun Watson as their quarterback and changing the face and what the Browns and the culture need is somebody to rally behind. And I think Shadur is that guy that can, at least if he is not great, he is going to change the narrative on the Browns. It's no longer massages and all this other shit. It's, oh,
Right.
prime son can't play ball, or or he says something after a game that throws his teammates under the bus. It's going to change the narrative on what the Browns are and who they are. So I am 100% in belief right now that they will still take Shadur Sanders at 2. I don't think they'll move. And if they don't take him at 2, I do think they move back Don. Like I don't think they'll sit there at the 2 spot. I think they want somebody to trade up and take that spot from them, or they're taking Shadur.
Yeah. And it's understandable because I mean they do need a new identity and a new quarterback, so it's hard to, say they don't need either of those.
Because how many fans like our group chat, hate the Browns right now because of their decision making for the quarterback position. And like it might not fix it with Shadur, but at least it's going to take him away from decisions from the past and like that past one. Then the new mess up is, oh, you messed up with Prime's kid. Don, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's why my question about the rebuild. I mean, if you're in a rebuild, I don't think that either of those quarterbacks are sexy enough. So if I'm saying that, hey, we're rebuilding, I'm trying to get out of that two pick sliding back where I can maybe grab, you know, I don't know, maybe even Campbell, an offensive lineman. I don't, but getting another one, maybe even a two next year for that pick, depending on how far up somebody's going to come. And all of a sudden now you go into what I think, I agree with you, Owen, might be one of the best drafts in the last few years. Next year you got 2 1s and maybe 2 2s.
Mhm.
And if you're in a full rebuild, that's probably what you're looking to do. I personally don't know if, I mean, I like the Sanders kid, but um, I don't know. I don't know. I think Travis, Hunter's a great player too, but I think the Browns, if I'm a Browns fan, I'd probably get more juiced about sliding back 6 or 7 spots and grabbing a number one next year. Still building up my offensive and defensive lines,
Mhm.
and then looking for some skilled players next year. But
They
yeah,
just
Yeah,
done it
and
in the past and have gotten smoked. They've done it in the past. They moved back one spot and Patrick Mahomes was taken, you know what I mean, the spot before them at 11 and we had to pick at 12.
I just
And
remember Doc O, man. Doc, this is one thing about Doc Ock, though, is that, and he's right, is that the Browns kill it later in the draft. They will
yeah,
find
they
quality
absolutely do.
players
they do.
late.
He hates trading down just for that reason. He thinks it's not worth it because they get Corey Coleman's and Danny Shelton's and whatnot, you
I
know.
mean, they do get quality players late, but they do have a tendency not to do well in that first round pick. But I don't know. If you're in a full rebuild, I think you got to trade back.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
the conversation with Miles, I think, will be whatever they told Miles. It just makes more sense to me. Like, there's no way they said, "Hey, we're gonna go re-sign Joe, and we're gonna get Kenny Pickett, and we're gonna roll it out next year, and you're gonna take your money, and you're gonna be cool." I just don't see because like other teams would have paid him what the Browns did. So for them to say this is our plan at quarterback, this is what you're going to be doing, I just don't see that as what the answer was. I think they're going to have to at least take a shot, whether that's going to be at 2 or at 33 or 34. But let's move to the topic of kind of the NIL. Recently, Tennessee's quarterback was making some noise. He was making $2.5 million a year. His name's, how do you say his last name? Nico Iamaleava, or how do you say it? Do you know?
Nico,
We're gonna call him Nico. That's good. See, I'm telling you, the old dudes always have
I am
the
a
fucking
Leva?
the
Yeah, I don't know.
shorthand. They got the shorthand down. So yeah, he was getting paid $2.5 million a year. He came out that he was trying to negotiate a contract to give him a little more money. I know it was controversial in our group chat, and I think people were on both sides. I wasn't necessarily on a opposing side, but you can see that these dudes are going to be kind of chasing their value when they are red hot. So, what do you think the college landscape is kind of looking like if dudes are going to be doing this right before like the spring game? Because the spring game was this weekend, and he was supposed to play and was like, "I want more money." Like, how do you guys think?
Go ahead,
Like
Don.
like basically, yeah. What do you like in comparison into years past? How do you think this changes things for athletic departments and also for players moving forward?
I, I think this is what, from an older guy's perspective, I hate it. I hate a lot about the NIL, but what I hate most about the NIL is it's not regulated, and the NCAA has no idea how to control it. And I see this thing coming out of Congress where they're talking about a $20 million cap, but how does that work? I mean, there's
Some
just
teams can't reach that, you know.
right. The problem is there's no rules, and so here's a perfect example is if I'm signing a kid to a $5 million NIL contract, I want in the contract that you're playing in the bowl games, and you're making this many public shows and stuff for me. But the in all honesty though, when you start paying people and you're paying them to play, the holdout is how you negotiate your contract. It's been done in every pro sport since they've had pro sports. So if you're going to play by these rules, what the kid's doing is how you get more money.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's banking on himself. He's banking that somebody's going to pay him more money, but we've created, or not we, but the NCAA and sports has created this
I mean,
environment.
society. I mean, if you want to say we can go ahead and say we as society.
Right.
Yeah.
We've created this. We've created this scenario and this environment, and he's doing what he thinks he needs to do to make the amount of money he thinks he's worth.
Well,
It's a
sports right now, greed is running rampant, whether that's, gambling, whether that is sports cards, whether that's whatever speculative market there is on sports, that when all the fan bases are caring about betting and like futures, and sports centers talking about that, and then the players are like, well, all these people are making money off that, and then it's like every time it gets close to the top, the people who are making the money are the ones that are going to start making a fuss because they see how much money they're generating. And, he sees how much money Tennessee's bringing in, and probably, all these, the evolution of the culture there, and like how the coach is getting credit, and like all of these different things. And in his mind, he's probably got like, and I saw this tweet from Will Compton. He said he probably has people around him making bad decisions. So people around him are probably reaching out to, because I saw a rumor that his people reached out to Dan Lanning at Oregon and said, "Hey, we're getting paid $2.5 million. Would you guys pay us $4 million?" And kind of doing that thing. So then Dan Lanning hit up Josh Heupel and was like, "Hey, there's been some communication here. His people were kind of tampering around and asking questions." And that's what I saw.
Snitched.
Yeah,
or not snitched, but I didn't know that's what like the situation.
That's the rumor.
School.
I haven't seen if that was confirmed yet. That's what I saw on. I think it was either Friday or Saturday morning. Whenever the news dropped, it might have been Saturday morning. But that was kind of the rumor, that his people hit up Oregon, was like, "Hey, we're kind of seeing like Tennessee's not really listening to our request. Would you guys want to do something like this?" So I think that's why Tennessee was like, "Yep, we're not dealing with this." I think he has some poor decision makers around him and poor leadership around him, and that's probably most of it, because he's a really good player. He has a high ceiling. I'm not going to say he's been a letdown, because he's only played one full season as a starter, and he had a really good year last year. Only threw like 5 picks. So I mean, high upside. It's just always scary when you get a guy like that, where his ego and his greed is kind of the center of attention rather than his play on the field. I see more players doing this, like Don said, because this is how the landscape is shaped right now. And Title IX, I think, is going to be the biggest issue with all of this at the end of the day. Is like, how are you, like Andy and the older generation want these people to be like, "Oh, you guys are employees, pay them as employees." Well, are you going to pay like the women's soccer team also, because like it's got to be fair in some way, or there's going to be a court case. So like it's so hard to navigate, because you have to get the corporations involved, you got to get the investors involved, because think about all of these private equity and like private investment companies that are now investing in these college programs. Like that's where a lot of the shadiness is starting. And then these players are like, "Oh, I see all this money coming in. I can get money from this place. These people are hitting me up." So it's a temptation that I don't know how I would navigate if I was 20 years old and already had $2 million,
Yeah, but how do you and then you also see a kid like, Underwood get paid 10 million. And so now are you going to your coach saying, "Hey, I want the same contract"? It's what they do in the pros, right? It's all
And
comp
that's
contract.
what, and I think you're absolutely right. I think more dudes, unless they make a rule about it, it's going to continue to happen. And I also think that these players see too, when a coach leaves for a better opportunity, what penalty do they have? Are people talking shit about them, like wanting more money and going like, DeBoer going from Washington to Alabama and taking guys with him, or telling like commits that, "Oh yeah, you can come to Alabama." Can he even do that if Alabama's already stacked up to the gills in recruiting? What about all the kids that he told at Washington? You know what I mean? It's like, but like, You're not hearing those people complain about these coaches doing this. But every time a player tries to doing this, it's our generation that sucks. It's these players are ruining college sports. It's like, no, the power has kind of shifted over to the players, and it's going to piss people off. But at the end of the day, the sport doesn't happen without the talent on the field. So like, no matter what you want to say, the money begins with the players, and they're the ones that are going to have to be happy before it's all said and done. Now, with the transfer stuff, do you think there needs to be rules in place to block them from transferring to like 6 different schools?
Personally, I wish we had one transfer. The kids were allowed one transfer in your college career.
I
And that's
agree. I was gonna say I think I would allow that, and then the only other exception would be is if your coach leaves, like you
yes.
just talked about. I think if your coach leaves and you're now in a screwed spot, new coach hates you, whatever, it's completely out of control. Then I would say you have the ability to leave. But otherwise, I would probably limit it to one personally, just because, like you said, there's so many guys. Or if you hop up, if you, I think it was Cam Ward who kind of jumped from different, like if you go from like Division 2 to Division 1. Good
Hmm.
on you, brother. I'm not knocking that. Like if you move up, I can
Yeah,
kind of
it's not. It
understand
doesn't
that.
count towards your one or whatever the
Right.
case may be.
Right. No, so I think that's completely fair. Like if you like switch kind of like up, not programs, but divisions, I think that would make sense. But that and coach getting fired would be probably my only two exceptions. Otherwise, I think I'd probably limit it to one, too. I mean,
And
it's
then
just
that also forces a kid into a decision like, do I want to leave this year? Do I want to like? And then it forces
yeah.
them into thinking, do I ever want to leave? Because you know what I mean. And they're still getting paid. They'd have to learn something new in a year. It opens up. I mean, it closes a lot of the I think negative stuff that comes along with NIL. At least with the the negative actors or the bad actors who are the ones causing all of the issues, and that's usually the people with the money.
Right.
Um, so I agree. I think a year would be a good thing too. I also don't know how they'll ever do a salary cap, especially if they're going to get kids from high school. Because think about this: every single year, those 5-star recruits, those top 10 recruits, they're getting the same contracts that the guys the year before got. So like, how are you going to be able to get like so many classes in a row where it's like, okay, yeah, this guy got 5, this guy got 5, this guy got 5, and then you're like, there's a salary cap now. It's got to be under 20 million. So now you can't get what they got last year. It's just not going to work like that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're not going to stop a player going to Ohio State because of money. It's never worked in the history of college sports. It's not going to start working, when you put a law in place. They'll just go behind closed doors and funnel it in a different way.
Right. And I agree. And even though, like you said, it's just always going to get done behind closed doors, I just, now that it's like technically legal, it's just, I am nervous for the uncapped mess that it is right now.
Yeah, think
And
about how
like,
dirty it is in the open, though. That's like what
it,
I'm saying. It's so dirty in the open right now that, like, behind closed doors, it's probably 10 times the worse than we can even imagine. Like
oh, for sure.
the things that are being asked to these kids,
Right.
the people who are getting like their numbers and getting phone calls with these people's agents or these people's families, people who are desperate. They're in these situations where like their son or their whoever can help change their life. So they're in their ear. There's just a lot of stuff right now that needs touched up. But like I like the idea of the players having power and like being able to do what they want. I just also think they need to have that limited to a certain amount of time.
Right.
But
Right.
like
Not maybe all the power, but some. Like, I think it should be not like, 20, like 100%, but I know what you mean. Like, they should be getting like a little more than what it just was initially. Yeah.
right, because I think Tavien even only got like $1 million, right? Like or something like that.
I don't know, but throwing this out to you guys, I mean, not to represent the curmudgeons, but so are you guys officially here saying that Andy Burton's they should play for their education is officially dead in college sports?
That was dead. That was dead probably in 19 what 75, 85,
I just
probably
want to make
whenever
sure
Miami was
that
winning titles.
I want to make sure that there can be an official funeral on that
Recorded on the record. Have
Well,
it.
on the
I just
record.
think it's unbelievable to even say that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, what reality are we living in? Are we living in like this fake one that like this ideal place that everybody hopes and dreams that we used to like live in? Because even when we were playing for education, all of these how many people at Ohio State were driving Hummers or these these supercars to class or Dodge Chargers. They were all doing it back then. It's not like they were playing for their education. I mean, before it even happened, we had a quarterback that said he didn't go to Ohio State to play school. So it's like
Yeah.
that's been dead for a long time. So yeah, I think I can go ahead and plant my flag on the hill that these guys aren't there for an education, and I think he's just playing dumb when he thinks they're there to get more educated.
Right.
If anything, they're trying to fill their pockets with some cash.
Did
Yeah.
you guys watch Tavian yesterday?
I did. Not
How
the whole
cool,
thing, but I watched
how
like
cool
first
was
three
it though?
drives.
Just to know that the kid was from Bellefontaine. How cool was that?
That's what I meant when I texted in the group chat. I was like, this is weird, but it's awesome. Like it was just so cool, but like just it was just nuts to see him out there.
You just
Really,
see it so
it's
different.
great.
You see it so differently because like you almost feel a personal connection because he comes from a great family in our community. He was a bat boy for our Acme team when I was in school. So it's like it's
Right.
it's crazy to just think of like that little kid that was like honestly getting in trouble at practice because he was just so wiry and had a bunch of energy and was like doing his thing as a little kid is now like out there throwing it in the scarlet and gray, like living the dream that all of us like had as kids, like coming from that small community and still making it happen was really cool to see. And I know he had some learning moments in that
Shaky
that
start.
first one, like and again, he's what he probably if he just turned 18, he could be 17 or just turned 18 and he's not even graduated from high school yet. Like technically he should be a senior in high school and he's out there playing in front of, how many people we have? Probably 75,000 people out there last night.
Yeah, I mean it's no joke, the spring game crowd. I mean that's a packed house for
And
sure.
and he's playing against the best kids in the country. He's going from the CBC in our area to the best kids in the entire country at Ohio State and competing. Did he have some bad
Right.
reads and make some, rookie mistakes? Yeah. I mean, he's like, and I think when I texted in one of my other group chats with like Skyler and Matt Gump and just like Cam Henry and that one with like Nick Burton. And I think Skyler made a great point that like, he's not starting in 2 months. He's starting in 2 years. He's got a lot to learn.
Yeah.
He's going to get caught up. And I think Ryan Day shows a lot of belief in him just from even mentioning him in press conferences and saying, he has the farthest way to go right now out of all of the quarterbacks, but that's to be expected. So I don't think
Yeah.
he did
Youngest
anything
one in the
outside of
room.
right. I don't think he did anything outside of what they thought he could do. He had some good plays. I think that touchdown strike was honestly that showed a lot of promise, especially having the confidence to make that throw in the center, in the middle of the field, in the end zone like that too. And
Yeah.
honestly, it was like Andy said, it was a seed. It was really cool to see, and I really hope success to him 100 times over because it's cool. He's representing basically our community very well.
I do
For
think he
sure.
did some things they weren't expecting, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that I'm not sure the way he played in the first half that they were expecting the drive he put together in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about the kid talking about a lot of maturity being shown in just a couple hours.
Well, just to be
For
able to
sure.
come back from that, like you're saying, just to be
And
able to
then
throw those two picks and then have that confidence building drive that like, okay, fuck, I can do this. I can do this. The confidence, like you said, in that 2 hours is going to be huge from right now until the beginning of the season.
Right. And
everybody's
even
talking
for,
about
his first game and having some rookie mistakes, he still, like Don said, put it together so quickly, which still showed a lot of promise. It was good.
everybody's talking about the touchdown throw, but I don't know if you watched the last drive, but he throws about a 30-yard look like maybe like a go route on the sidelines over top of and in between the coverages, uh,
Mhm.
right in front of the safeties and over top of the corner, and it was a freaking 23-year-old throw.
Yeah.
I mean, and just that whole, it was almost like when he got in that 2 minute drill, which was cool that Day let him run the 2 minute drill. Actually, you think about that too. In the final possession, it was almost like he just started playing then.
Mm-hmm.
You
Stop
know,
thinking so much. Yep.
yeah, and he threw a couple dimes on three actually really good balls, and it was funny because I was watching Twitter the comments when he got in early and everybody's like, oh, they made a
He
mistake.
sucks. He
Yeah,
sucks.
he's got so far to go, and then by the end they're like, everybody's high on their quarterback room. Think Clair should compete for a starting position, which
Right.
I hope he's redshirted, but get redshirted, play your 4 games if you can get in four, and great. But I think he showed out. I think that for a kid that should still be in high school, I thought he had a good spring game, especially if you carve out the two picks in the first half, and you look at that last drive, that was a senior type drive.
I just think the noise right now, especially for people from Bell Fountain, I've already seen people going to war and the comments about like you already see people like, yep, he ain't ready. And then like I've already seen people already like, shut up, like
You don't know what you're
he's
talking about.
young. He's young. And it's like, okay, I think and I this goes back to our conversation earlier with my crew group chat. It's like, yeah, I think Ryan Day's opinion of Tavien St. Clair matters much more than, Buckeye guy 34-27. Like no one gives a fuck about what that guy has to say. So if you're putting any stock or you're going to war in the comments for these guys, you're going to be doing it all season because they're only doing it for a reaction. They're doing it for the same reason I type something into Cat Salad Crew as a troll job because I know. Think about how many times I type something in there and then there's like 40 messages after because like whatever I said, I knew people were going to either hate or it was just like me being a hater on Moss and then him getting pissed and then everybody like, what's going on right now?
Trigger, yeah, big trigger reaction.
So like I don't understand attacking other because like they're gonna say he sucks. He has high expectations. He's a 5-star quarterback, and like honestly didn't have the tape that a lot of these other dudes have or like the state championships or things like that. So he has a lot to prove before he makes his starts, but like you said, the ball coming out of his hands, some of the throws he made, and then the strides he made from the beginning of the game to the end, to be able to just still muster up the confidence to go out there, not continue to compile the mistakes and learn from them throughout the game. So I thought it was just cool. It was just cool.
I saw one person, two people actually commented on this, which I caught my attention too. He looked fast.
Oh, quicker. He caught that guy on the interception. He caught the kid on the sidelines.
He caught that, but he scrambled one time too out of the pocket, and he hit some.
It was surprising. I he was way faster than I thought it would be, and for that kind of game too, the speed's so much quicker at Ohio State.
Well, he was working forward. He didn't run sideline to sideline often. He was just going vertical. I think that's what like made him look quicker is like he wasn't dicking around going. He knows he's not the fastest guy in the world. So when he was going, he has more freedom now to do that because I guarantee before his junior year or whenever he was offered, they'll go run out of bounds, slide, don't scramble like that. No reason. Like you can do that here when you get here. So now that he has those training wheels off and he's allowed to kind of work through that and be an athlete now, I think he's able to showcase that a little more too. Because he had like 9 touchdowns or something rushing. He still had almost damn near 10 touchdowns last year running the ball. And Carter Caudell had like 20. So it's like he still had a hell of a year on the ground. Don, I know you texted our thing earlier. Was there anything else we needed to touch on here with O-Dog? I want to make sure we hit everything. I don't have a time running since we did it through Zoom.
If he'll do it, I think we should get Owen on in a couple weeks and break down what the
results.
What happened in the draft.
That'd be awesome. I'd be down to talk Lions and Browns. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have plans to get some other guests on here too, especially at a Cat Salad, but more people within the community. Is there anybody that you can think of that you would want to listen to or know more about, Owen? Just as a suggestion.
Me personally?
Yeah.
Ooh. Anyone I would want to know more about in the community?
Or just like more of their backstory, or just like, just hear kind of what I did with Don week 1.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Mike would obviously be awesome. I think he would be hilarious, even though he's so curmudgeonly. I think he'd be a fun listen, and he could tell you stories till the end of days. So that would be great for sure. And you could, get him fired up about some of these good topics. That'd be some good quality content for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But so he would probably be my good pick. But if I think of any more, I'll definitely let you know for sure. What's that?
I was going to say, I think Connor would be, especially following the Masters. CB knows golf.
Oh, for sure. If you want a good golf conversation, that'd be the first guy. That'd be the first KSK guy I'd invite in the chat.
Does anybody have an update right now? A live update? It's 5:00 on Sunday.
Murray's kicking everybody's ass. He's up 4 or 5 shots.
Oh, really? So it's over?
He's 13 under, and DeChambeau's 9 under.
Yeah, it's cooked then. Wow, that's not what I expected today to go like. Honestly,
I think a great one though would be to have Andy and Moss on together.
I think that would be good. You know what I think would be good too? Andy and Nick Burton.
Oh, God.
I think that would be perfect. Them just kind of get them going against each other and fighting and talking about something dumb or like an old baseball story. I just want to ask those two, so on the mound when you guys were, 12 years old, what was the funniest thing Andy said to you on the mound? Because I know you said some hilarious shit to Joey. I just remember Andy just always getting in his ass too at baseball games. Always.
Couldn't hear it, but you could see it. Sometimes you could hear it.
My best Nick Burton story was we're playing in a tournament in Elida, and it's like 3 3-3, 4-4, and Nick's on third base with 2 outs, and we're like everybody's like cheering, and we're just like, I'm like, Nick, as soon as the ball's hit, and all this, and he's like, okay, Don, okay. He goes, but hey, Don, typical Nick Burton coming right here. He goes, but hey, Don, if we don't score, can I pitch next inning? Says that. Nobody says that.
What was he? Probably 12 year, 10U,
12.
12U.
Yeah.
Well, so when
That's
did you
hilarious.
coach them all growing up? Like, did you?
Yep, all the way.
So like, because I remember whenever we played Bell Fountain and I was on Zanesfield, he was always like on what was the
Oh, no, I
electric?
didn't coach their in-house.
You didn't. You just coach just the.
I coached just the travel, but in-house I always had seemed to have Houchin or Kennedy.
Because I for some reason I remember you guys. Were you the coach when? No, I was gonna say when Trent Nickel threw at the runner
No,
when we
Trent
were
Nichols,
kids.
he was 2 years older than Joe.
Okay, I was gonna say I think that might have been a Dave Lyons team.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's wrap it up here. Owen, I appreciate you taking some time out of your weekend, especially he moved his tea time back so he could get here on time, even though you were a couple minutes late.
Good
I
stuff.
still appreciate you working around your schedule for us, and
Of
we'll have
course.
you back on here in a few weeks. Don, anything to wrap it up today?
No, thanks, Owen. That was awesome.
Cool.
Thanks, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Yeah, we got to do this again for sure. I'm always down. Maybe around draft time.
Awesome. Perfect. Peace.